The events of the last year were a catalyst for some people to take the leap and move to another state. As companies transitioned to remote work, it expanded options for their employees. Not being limited to a geographical location meant that employees could seek out happiness somewhere else, so some states gained residents while others lost some. In this video, we're taking a look at the 10 states that had a population loss during 2020. Number 10. Maryland. Maryland jumped up 10 spots from its position last year. It seems that retiring by the sea isn't for everyone. The second biggest reason people gave for moving out of the free state was retirement, with 26% of the respondents giving that answer. More than half the people leaving are 55 and older. What is causing so many retirees to leave the state? It's just too expensive to live in Maryland. The state ranks 7th out of 52 regions on the cost of living index. The cost of housing is particularly expensive. It is well above the national average. According to one survey respondent, the less money you want to spend, the longer you will commute. People work in the cities and tolerate commuting hours to live somewhere cheaper with better schools for their kids. If the balance bothers you, you'll have to find work in a more remote town or city, but you can expect that your salary won't be as high. That may be why 55% of the moves were to another state. Number 9. Ohio. With wages in the Buckeye State being slightly lower than the national average, with the per capita rate at $31,552, about half of the people leaving the state said that they moved out for work. They're moving to places where they can make more money because finding a job isn't that hard to do in Ohio. As of November 2020, the unemployment rate for the state was 1 percentage point lower than the national average. Those who left for other reasons commonly cited the desire for better weather. As with most of the states in the Midwest, the weather can be unpredictable. Summers are hot, winters are cold, and spring and fall don't last nearly long enough. There's the possibility of tornadoes and blizzards. It can become a hassle, so for 56.1% of the people moving, they chose to move to another state. Number 8. Massachusetts. Massachusetts has a lot going for it. They rank high in terms of education, and they have so much history. What they also have is an affordability problem. People who choose to live in the state pay a premium for the experience. Boston in particular has an insanely high cost of living. They say that this is due to a lack of housing. There aren't enough homes for people to rent or buy, and construction projects have to go through a lot of red tape, so developers tend to primarily build luxury housing. That leads to competition from potential renters and buyers, so the prices go up. That might be why 56.6% of the moves were outbound. Number 7. North Dakota. North Dakota is known for its wide open spaces, but they might be feeling even emptier these days with many people leaving. More than 56% of those who left did so to look for better job opportunities, but North Dakota's unemployment rate was the 9th lowest in the country as of November 2020. Finding a job in North Dakota isn't a problem. The issue is that the job you find might not be a job you actually want. One respondent said that the laid-back atmosphere can come as a culture shock to newcomers, highlighting a lack of public transportation, lack of style, lack of flavor, and lack of seafood. Outbound moves made up 56.7%. Number 6. Kansas. As Dorothy may have said, there's no place like home, while talking about Kansas, some people from the state seem to disagree with her. Almost half of the people leaving did so for work. Retirement and family were each listed as factors for more than a quarter of those who left. Kansas had the 4th lowest cost of living in the country last year, but wages are still too low. The per capita income for the state is about $3,000 below that of the United States at $31,814. Some survey respondents said that Kansas is an insular place without much character. One quote says, "Life is very slow-paced. People don't pay attention to the world outside because Kansas is a perfect bubble of safety. In effect, some towns feel no need to distinguish themselves from other places." Perhaps that is why outbound moves accounted for 58.6% of the moves. Number 5. California. The Golden State was new to the top 10 in the last United Van Lines survey, and this year it jumped up into the top 5. The primary reason cited for why people left was for work. However, many people actually moved into the state for work, particularly those going to Silicon Valley and Hollywood. The real reason people leave California is that it's just too expensive for an average person to live there. California is the 3rd most expensive place to live in the United States, beaten only by the District of Columbia and Hawaii. Some people are deciding that the sunny weather and scenic beaches aren't worth the expense. As one respondent put it, skyrocketing rent and mortgage prices, gas prices way above the national average, crazy high cost of living, excessive taxes, droughts that last for years, mandatory power outages for safety purposes in many areas of the state, Devastating fires and lack of insurance coverage for houses in those areas makes this place absolutely awful. That's why 58.7% of the moves were outbound. Number 4. Connecticut. People in Connecticut have to deal with an over-the-top cost of living. Data shows everything is more expensive in the nutmeg state, especially housing and utilities. Despite being a coastal state where you can picture people retiring on the beach, Connecticut doesn't seem like it's doing a very good job of retaining its retirees. More than 30% of the people who left wanted to retire somewhere else. That answer tied with leaving for work as the number one reason to move. They also have high taxes. In most of the northeastern states, residents can expect to lose a good chunk of change to high income and sales taxes, as well as property taxes. Real estate is expensive in the region, generally speaking, so property taxes cost a pretty penny as well. One survey respondent said, "In a lot of other places, there will be a county government that handles much of the local services. We have lots of tiny towns that each have their own police, fire, schools, snow removal, etc. Also, our cities aren't allowed to annex surrounding areas to diversify their tax base. That's why they are so broke." These reasons all led to 63.5% of the moves from Connecticut being outbound. Number 3. Illinois. Illinois is down one spot from last year's ranking, so that's an improvement. The land of Lincoln is known primarily for Chicago, farmland, and high taxes. In 2020, Illinois voters were given the choice of retaining a flat income tax or moving to a graduated rate based on income. It was rejected at the ballot box, but income tax is the least of Illinoisans' worries. The state has the second highest property tax in the nation. One survey respondent suggested that education is one reason taxes are so high. He stated that every year he receives a letter explaining where the property taxes are applied, and that he could see some of it goes to the public school system, and an additional portion goes to his local community college. This makes sense to me. In rich areas, the schools are really nice, and in poorer areas where the homes aren't worth as much, the schools tend to lack some of the things that they should have. Illinois also has the 6th highest gas tax in the country. That's why when people moved, 66.4% were outbound moves. Number 2. New York. Life in New York City is hard unless you happen to be a millionaire. The average person is unable to buy a home in the Big Apple because the median home costs over $1.6 million. So for the majority of people, renting is the only option, and it'll run you around $5,100 per month. That's insane. That's more than a lot of people around the country make in a month. And it's not just the city that takes a huge chunk out of your paycheck. On a cost of living index created by the Missouri Economic Research and Information Center, New York State ranks 5th in the nation. According to one respondent, in the early 2000s, things really started to disintegrate. The cost of living went up. A lot. Taxes went up. New York State income taxes went up as well as property taxes, and they've been on the rise since. And that is why 66.9% of the moves documented were outbound. And number 1, New Jersey. The Garden State doesn't come up smelling like roses for many people. New Jersey has been consistently losing residents for the last decade. For the 3rd consecutive year, it's been in first place for the number of residents lost. The most often cited reason that respondents gave for leaving New Jersey was retirement, followed by moving to be closer to family. Another reason given is taxes. New Jersey has the highest property tax in the country, in addition to high taxes in other categories. Overall, New Jersey has a fairly expensive cost of living, and most people want to stretch their retirement dollars as far as they can. Outbound moves accounted for 69.5%. It seems that the Midwest and the Northeast are the regions that are having the hardest time keeping people. If you live in one of these states and you're planning on moving, leave a comment letting me know which state you picked and why. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.